Hello, today's post is the 24th of I Eat, I Read, I Watch, my column highlighting one of my solo dinners and its reading or watching accompaniments. Please treat yourself well at mealtime too. Don't just eat alone, dine solo. You're worth it and it's not hard to do. This time I'm eating savory bread pudding. Despite being a mature student with some savings, money was tight for me 20 years ago when I studied law at UVic. I wasn't dining out a lot, but when I did, Rebar, Victoria, BC's best-known vegetarian restaurant, competed with Barb's Fish and Chips for my top choice. No surprise, though, that when I drove back from Victoria to resettle in Toronto, I had a copy of Rebar Modern Food Cookbook tucked into a box aside the McGill Style Guide of Legal Citation and my admin law text. Less surprised that the Rebar Cookbook is the only book I acquired in law school that I still own. I pulled it out the other night for its savory bread pudding recipe. This one requires a trip to the grocery store. At least maybe you have Gruyere and whipping cream on hand most of the time. But they are not in regular rotation on my list. So the next night I set out about making it. I first washed and chopped 3 leeks and got them softening on medium with some salt and a bit of butter. While doing that, I read ahead on the recipe and realized the bread should already have been soaking in the custard an hour. I'm annoyed with recipes that throw me these kinds of curveballs. It should be stated right at the top, but instead it was buried in the second instruction point. Oh, I had it underlined, obviously having been caught short a time before, but I ignored the underlining today. Anyway, I decided mine wouldn't get a full hour because I was hungry. I quickly whipped up 3 eggs with 3/4 of a cup of milk and 3/4 of a cup of cream, scaling back the quantities a bit from the full recipe, which is 5 eggs and a cup of each liquid. Given the scaled back custard, I cubed only 3/4 of a loaf of sourdough bread. I mixed it all together with freshly ground black pepper and set it aside to get the bread as soggy as possible. I removed the softened leeks from the pan and put them into my casserole dish. I added some more butter to the pan on the element and then threw in fresh chopped shiitake mushrooms and a diced leftover portobello I roasted a day or two ago. I put the lid on to release the juices and then after a bit removed the lid and added a glug of port for deglazing. I didn't have the Madeira the recipe called for. I reduced the liquid completely and then added the cooked mushrooms to the leeks. I chiffonaded some sage leaves, such a good word, right? And pulled the thyme leaves off the stalks and added both to the cooked veg. I preheated the oven to 350 because I knew I was getting close to showtime. All that was left was grating the cheese. The incredibly small piece of Gruyere for $17 took nearly no time to reduce most of it to a pile of pale yellow shreddings atop the veg and herbs. By then I was getting fed up with waiting for the bread to get any more soaked, so I mixed it all with the veg and cheese, grated the rest of the cheese in an even layer on top, popped the lid on, and put it into the oven for 45 minutes. At about 35 minutes, I removed the lid to get the desired cheese crust on top. Then for a token salad, I took a handful of radishes and thinly sliced them, and then some Brussels sprouts, which I chiffonaded. Okay, I'm getting my money's worth on that word in this post. I dressed it with vinaigrette of olive oil, rice wine vinegar, and a dollop of mustard to emulsify. Perfect. At 45 minutes, my bread pud was pretty firm in the middle, but could do with another few minutes. I, however, was hungry, so I plated a portion from the edge and put it back for another 10. I garnished my portion with chopped chives and loaded a portion of salad on the plate with it and poured myself a 0% beer, something I've taken to buying this year as I've all but eliminated at-home drinking. Delish. And I've got several more servings of this. Divine. If you're ever in Victoria, make sure you check out Rebar. Prep time, about 30 minutes. Cook time, 45. Origin, well, the cheese is from Switzerland, but everything else was Canadian. Cost, I'd say about $30, and it will produce 5 meals. If you've got a good recipe you follow from time to time, please put it in the comments on my blog. Now, what am I reading this time? Well, it's a book called A Second Act, What Late Bloomers Can Tell You About Reinventing Yourself. I ordered this 2024 book from Henry Oliver from the library as research, thinking it might chronicle stories similar to mine, or it might trigger an approach in my own writing. When I picked it up, I was excited to see smart, funny, insightful, emblazoned on the cover, credited to someone who'd written a book called Difficult Women. I was keen to dive in to see what Henry had to say that might make me chuckle. Disappointingly, nothing was very funny in the parts of this book I read. Truth is, I've got so many research books about and other books piled beside my bed, many from the library with pressing return dates. So when I realized in the first chapter Oliver hadn't really taken an approach that was in any way similar to or helpful for my own, I flipped to the last chapter, got the gist, and returned it. If I had to guess from its pristine condition, I'd say no one had ever read this book. Poor Henry. I'm sure it's a great book, just not for me right now. Have you had a book disappoint you lately? Well, be sure to add it to the comments on my blog. Finally, what am I watching? Well, Douglas is canceled. In contrast to Henry Oliver's book, Douglas is Cancelled is one of the best series I've watched in a long time. I'm on BritBox now, having given up Netflix due to its American ownership. BritBox and I don't know each other well, so the algorithm is testing me. Will she like this? What about that? I expect before long I'll be feasting on a steady diet of funny, insightful, and even moving pieces like Douglas. Damn, this is good TV. Premise. Douglas is a middle-aged famous presenter, that's the UK word for news anchor, with a young, hot female co-host. He says something dumb at a party that gets tweeted and then all hell breaks loose. I'm shocked that this is directed by a man because all the male characters are idiots, boors, cads, or idiotic boorish cads, and all the women are intelligent, strategic, and funny. The one exception among them is Douglas's driver. If you've seen Gervais' Afterlife, this actor played Postman Pat. Let's just say he deadpans well during the closing credits of each of Douglas's 4 episodes. Check it out. Have Kleenex ready for the last episode. And if you've found something worth sharing, please add it to the comments on my blog. And you can find that at celiachandler.com.